Я с самого рождения сочетаюсь, короче, с самого рождения и в школе, в институте, короче, в детском саде тоже сам.
Yeah, this is unfortunately impossible to cure.
Ну, хочу научиться хорошо говорить.
Or this is a completely different story. Our speech apparatus is something that we control, that we can move or not depending on what we want. Nobody can do it for us. It is the same as learning the skill of typing, playing a musical instrument, or learning to behave ourselves in various social settings. You're here just a humble school student in the classroom. I am your teacher, your mom is your tutor who is observing your educational process. As a student, you have to be extremely obedient. You should be like a soldier receiving orders. Yes, sir, understood, I execute. And proceed with the execution as diligently as possible. Because the more you strive for accuracy in completion of the task, the better you will be able to help yourself. My goal is to show you the shortest way to your success so you wouldn't waste your next 5-10 years on speculating about what's good or bad, what's right or wrong in your speech. Your duty is to follow my directions as precisely as possible. If you do precisely what I ask you to, then you will produce the norms immediately. There is nothing to discuss or argue about, because this is a fact that norms, rules, and regulations do exist for anything we do. For example, traffic rules for drivers. When the speed limit sign says 60 kilometers per hour, you're not going to argue about this rule, right? Nobody will ask you whether you like it or not, whether you enjoy doing this or not. This is the rule and you must follow it. Only by doing so, you would be able to obtain your driver's license, which confirms that you are a normal, emotional, stable, and responsible citizen that can follow social appropriate rules. Yes, you can drive faster, but you limit yourself, slow down your car because you want to follow the rule that other drivers follow. So you could be like others. This is exactly what you are going to learn here. Just hide your ego somewhere far away.
Если я если я действительно в конце буду хорошо говорить,
You will not be speaking well at the end of the class. You will speak correctly right now.
пусть видео будет. А если останусь,
Okay, that's a deal. I got it. But then it wouldn't make any sense to even make this video.
Yeah, there wouldn't be any results to demonstrate.
Exactly. Without successful outcome, we will not have anything to show. See, it really doesn't matter what kind of speech you have now before the class. Have you watched my video reports about other students?
We have watched them all.
Happy end, понимаешь, да?
The most important is the end results. First, we see those fearful people struggle with their speech, and then we see the same individuals speak flawlessly.
We've been trying to cure him for 20 years.
But it is useless.
It's just I've spent so much money. We've been all over Russia and Belarus. I've taken him to Minsk. He could not talk at all from his birth for some reason. I took him to the stuttering center in Moscow on Taganka Street for special psychiatric treatment. I cannot tell you how much money we've thrown away. And it's the same scenario each time. They tell us pay this amount of money and we guarantee that everything is going to be super in 1 month. Then 1 month passes by, 2 months, a year, and still nothing happens.
Because this is not about time. It is about whether a person begins to control his own speech and takes responsibility for it. or he is expecting that someone will learn for him to operate his own speech apparatus. This is a problem. A person does not participate actively, but our lips and tongue are voluntary muscles. They are like finger muscles.
What kind of a disturbance takes place in the speech apparatus? Is it something wrong with the vocal cords?
Nothing is disturbed there. If it was, then his speech organs would have been jerking even at rest.
Я с девочками хорошо говорю. А если...
A person is older than you.
Да, да. Блин.
See, when you wanted to say, oh shoot, you did it, no problem.
He speaks fine with the girls of his age, but something stops his speech whenever he's in front of somebody older.
Yes, this is an accurate observation. The root of your problem is not a disturbance of your speech apparatus or incorrect brain wiring. It is a so-called memory dysfunction. Stored in your memory sound equivalents are not appropriate. It is like a Windows software that does not function properly. The computer itself may be brand new right from the store, but its operating system is defective. As the result, the computer begins to malfunction. It keeps reloading, jerking, freezing, not functioning appropriately, even though its physical parts and wires are intact. Same with you. Your speech organs, nerves, and brain conductivity are intact, but the signals are being sent incorrectly, scattered, so the information gets stored disorderly in the brain. That is why you have noticed that whenever you recall a clear thought that has been stored orderly in your brain, then you are able to say it without any difficulties. Whenever the thought is not clear and you are attempting to recall a vague information that has been stored with some informational gaps, you cannot retrieve such scattered information from your memory appropriately. For example, instead of recalling a sound sequence of the word, your memory supplies your speech apparatus with a combination of letters instead. As the result, your speech apparatus begins to malfunction because it is strictly designed for sound production only. Imagine yourself reading a word in a book where some letters are water damaged. You have to guess what word could it be by blindly selecting more appropriate letters. That is exactly how your speech apparatus is trying to read an incomplete information stored in your memory.
Если надо... Если надо думать, короче, что сказать, то и сказать не могу.
So it is really possible to normalize everything, right?
Yes, absolutely. However, he will have to work really hard. The main thing, quit feeling yourself sick. Just order yourself to follow precisely and diligently every direction that I will be giving to you. Understood? You will have to relearn everything from scratch. First, you will study separate sounds, then the sound combinations. For the first hour or two, you will be reading like a first grader. Then, after the tune-up of the most sound positions is completed, we will work for 2-3 hours on the sounds that you used to produce incorrectly. Remember that your success will be achieved by you, your energy, intelligence, and your diligent efforts. Your mother's goal will be to carefully observe and learn my teaching techniques so she could help you with your homework.
Yes, just like a teacher's aide, right? I will be your elementary teacher.
Если я буду учиться говорить на русском, а на английском.
You will speak well in any language. There is no such thing as Russian or English speech apparatus. We all have the same set of teeth, lips, and a tongue. We wouldn't be able to learn foreign languages if our speech organs were different. That is why the way we produce speech sounds is the same in any language. We just form those sounds in different combinations, words, in different languages. And each sound code has its own meaning or image. As soon as you understand what sound positions are and learn how to combine them to form sound sequences, words, your speech apparatus will easily produce your speech, sound by sound. It is just like your hand can type on a computer keyboard, letter by letter, when you have the written image of a word in your memory. I've noticed that you form some sound positions incorrectly. That is why you have difficulties producing correct sounds. Even when you say a sound, you do not realize that you have done this already and keep repeating the same and the same sound again and again, instead of switching your attention to producing the next sound in this word. My method allows a person to act right away and see the immediate result of his or her action.
Has anybody ever left your room without positive results?
Nobody has ever left without results. Each of my students gets the result based on how much we have been able to cover in 3 days. Everything depends on one's performance capability. That's why it is mandatory to begin speaking non-stop during these 3 days. You speak here for 5-6 hours, and then you continue speaking with your mom and other people outside my office.
Буква это вообще у меня не получается говорить эту букву. Самое Проект. Проектировать. Проектировщик. Проекция. Район. Есть.
You are extremely uncomfortable with this letter, aren't you? It looks like you are afraid of this letter P. I've noticed 3 incorrect pronunciation patterns so far. Firstly, you are attempting to interject sound m in the beginning. Secondly, you are trying to produce this sound through continuously compressed lips. And lastly, you are thinking about something else at the moment of your speaking.
Please get serious. Do the best you can.
He is serious, but he is demonstrating what he can do so far. This is the result of multiple mistreatments.
Or, overkill.
Nobody has ever taught him how to speak, so he doesn't know it. His speech is like an experiment, trials and errors. He is attempting to use different ways of speaking and hoping that something is going to work eventually.
Где студент может стать учеником. Упущено. Снова свалился прежний ловушка.
Okay, tell us back now what you just read about.
Ничего серьезного.
Because all your energy, all your attention were wasted on your experimental reading, you're guessing how to say this or that.
Listen, it's amazing how complicated everything is. We've been struggling for his entire life. Wow, it's so complicated, really.
In reality, it appears complicated because nobody has ever explained to him how simple this is.
Перегин, перегинуто, перекись, перекладина, перекладка, перекладной, перекладывание, переклей, перекликаться, перекличка, переключатель, переключать, перекосить, перекоситься, перекочевать, перекраивать, перекрасить, перекрасить.
So is it easy now?
Вообще, где ж вы раньше были? Газель, газета, газетчик, газирование, газировать, газировка, газифицировать, газовать, газовщик, газ. Небо 15 метров. Зал вмещает 196 человек. На куполе зажигают 6000 звезд, а новейшая аппаратура позволяет смоделировать практически все астрономические явления и инопланетные пейзажи.
Are you noticing your speech apparatus now?
В принципе, нет.
Describe in details what do you see on the TV screen.
У себя дома. Сидели они на белом хорошем диване. Насколько я это понял, он сделан с кожи, с белой. К ним зашла в комнату мама. Мама в черной блузке, в черной юбке с красными и белыми цветочками. Волосы у нее рыжие. И сверху белый бантик с черными полосочками.
Все правильно.
Well done. You can ask him questions now.
Okay, who has entered the room?
В дом зашел друг мальчика, который живет в этом доме.
Very well. Now, could you please tell us your perspective on stuttering now?
Теперь стало общаться легче, нету зажимов. Я понял, как надо говорить, как я раньше говорил, как говорят люди, у которых не выходит говорить нормально. Другим я пожелаю, чтобы шли учиться говорить правильно. Все другие логопеды, там, доктора, специалисты, все это ложь, афера, шулеры и так далее. Ну, я сам не верил, я сам думал, что это, афера, что это, несерьезно. Но я действительно понял, стало легче говорить. И много понял о речи, много о русском языке. И что без словарного запаса ничего не выйдет. Надо учиться говорить, но и чтобы был словарный запас.
You have to constantly resupply your vocabulary.
И я понял, как надо двигать губами, языком, как это делают все люди.
You know, I have completely changed the way I perceive the reality today. It feels surreal now when I recall those statements and recommendations of all kinds of specialists that have worked with my son for all these 20 years. I trusted speech professionals and doctors and was convinced that my son would never be able to speak normally and that his condition required medical or therapeutical treatment. I'm shocked to learn that he never even had a stuttering disease to be cured of. And it is so simple. He just needed to learn to open his mouth and produce sounds naturally. As an elementary school teacher, I am extremely impressed by the genius of your unique method of education. I will start using some elements of your technique in my work with my young students from now on. I will pay close attention to the way they form their sounds, the way they say their very first words. I wish you could take over those stuttering centers with your program. Those stuttering centers simply cripple people. I paid 50,000 rubles for the last program in the stuttering center on Taganka Street, but we didn't get any results. I wish I gave those money to charity. Also, on top of stuttering, they diagnosed my son with a whole bunch of other diseases such as spastic disorder, hypertension, abnormal breathing, and they taught him speak with some kind of hand movement. He was practicing so diligently this technique everywhere, again, with no results or whatsoever. You know, I've spent 3 days in the office and learned a lot as a teacher. I understand now that speech therapists should teach their young students to produce sounds correctly, speak naturally according to the norms and rules for speaking, and also teach children to relax their speech apparatus.
Yes, and it is not just to relax, but never even tense their speech apparatus, which is meant to be relaxed initially. See, right now your son's speech organs are relaxed naturally at rest. Whenever he begins to speak, he needs to learn and master the skill of operating them in the same relaxed mode.
I see now that he didn't even need any acupuncture. It's funny how they were trying to find a special nerve number 25 and stick the needle in it. Why did they even need to attack that nerve if my son was never even sick, thank God? Dear Roman Alexeyevich, I am so shocked now. Thank you so much. I cannot find the right words to thank you enough for what you have done for us.
Наставили как надо делать.
You have provided my son with clear directions in his life, and I am grateful to you for that forever.
The main thing is that you realize now that he has never been sick and that nothing has ever been wrong with his nerves or brain conductivity. The truth is that your son has had a set of bad habits.
Yes, of course, his speech apparatus has never been fully developed. It is the same as I teach some of my young students how to line up their feet for walking appropriately, how to hold a pencil or pen for writing. I teach those skills. Someone has come up with this horrible lie about stuttering over 100 years ago, and we, all people, have accepted such misconception which claims that stuttering is a complicated and incurable disease. I work with children and always try to protect my disfluent students from their peers. I keep them close to me so nobody would make fun of them or hurt them in any way because of their inability to speak.
Yeah, I know all about this, and I have been writing about it on my website. Stuttering is not a disease. It's a set of immature speaking behaviors, which could be a lack of speaking skills or incorrectly acquired speaking skills or simply not fully developed speaking skills. So a disfluent individual requires to learn his or her speaking skills. He or she needs to understand how to use their speech apparatus correctly without forcing it, but simply directing their voice through naturally relaxed speech organs that will readily produce any sound. When a person forces his or her speech apparatus, he or she compresses its muscles, which creates an inability to speak. In reality, it is not that complicated.
Yeah, it is so simple.
One would need 3 days only in order to understand the basics of speaking norms and rules.
We are so grateful to you.
You're welcome. I'm always glad to help people, especially those that work diligently and understand that if they don't learn how to speak themselves, it is useless to cure their inability to speak, because it is impossible to cure a
Речь это
skill.
навык, а навык никогда не лечится.
Естественно, это наука.